Hello everybody, Sam here, engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, we are talking about how the CRISPR era is here. And I posted this on x.com yesterday evening, and I posted the following. CRISPR is about to shock the world on Friday. And it got almost 15,000 impressions. I mean, many likes, some retweets, bookmarks. And I really think we're on to something. I think this is a new era. I think, even if you compare this back in 2021 when the markets were high and CRISPR had momentum, I don't even think posts on what was called then on Twitter.com had this many impressions, this many likes. I think we're on to something, guys. I think this is a new era. I think we are in this new era. I think we're just beginning this new phase of CRISPR, right? And the reason why we're beginning this phase, and of course this started a couple of weeks ago when the UK approved CRISPR for the first ever CRISPR human-based therapy to go commercial in the UK, which again, UK is like a top 5 country in the world when it comes to GDP, right? So it is a top economy, and obviously this started a couple of weeks ago, but this Friday we're about to have the official approval or rejection of the FDA for hexacell disease. And for sickle cell disease for hexacell, right? And of course, hexacell is a program that is run both by Vertex and CRISPR Therapeutics, where Vertex owns 60% of that program and CRISPR Therapeutics owns the remaining 40%, which is still significant, right? So Vertex has lots of chips in the game here, and CRISPR as well. I mean, this is a big decision. I mean, I want people to remember that there's really a couple of angles for this decision to play out, right? And if some people have been asking, what do I think? Do I think the FDA is going to approve it, deny it? Especially from our last video yesterday where we talked about the FDA reviewer sort of pointing out the off targets, the 1% metric that was used a couple of years ago in research studies, which again, CRISPR Therapeutics CEO, Dr. Sam himself, he mentioned the 1% off target there. So it's not like we're revealing anything new here. So the couple angles I see, the way I see this is obviously if you're the bull case for CRISPR, the bull case for if you're in this space, I think the bull case is basically the FDA is going to approve it. And by my poll a couple of days ago, 90% of people think that the FDA will approve it. And then of course then you have the bear case, right? And the bear case, I don't think anybody's sort of saying that the FDA is going to flat out reject it. I think that's a little bit too pessimistic, and I don't see this playing out that way. The only thing I can see the FDA doing yet, if it's not to approve it, is basically to put this on a hold, so not reject it completely, although I see it as a rejection, and I'll explain why shortly. But I think what they'll do is they'll put this on a hold, and then what they'll do is they'll basically mention to CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex and to the public, because obviously the public needs an answer, is that they want to review more data. They want more time to review data. They want more time to review the risk of CRISPR Cas9. They want more time to review the off-target situation. And that's what the bears, I think, are sort of, talking about. Now, I'll tell you why I completely disagree with that stance, right? First of all, I want people to remember that CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex have been working with the FDA for years, right? Now, obviously, this process of the submission started just under a year ago, or about a year ago, but it started years ago, right? These companies were in discussion with the FDA for years, right? And you would think that this topic was explored years ago, or at least the past year when the submission was put into. So that said, how much more time do you need to study this? I mean, it's not like you're going to get more revelations. It's not like you'll be more satisfied. The 3 clinical trials here from hexacell to phase 3 are all done. The clinical trial phase 3 is all done. Like, this is all done. This is what they have. The patients have been enrolled. Those, they have to move forward here. The most you can do is maybe get more data from patients that were dosed. But again, the data's been amazing so far. I mean, what are we waiting for? You guys got to remember there is an opportunity cost to this. And obviously there's financial cost, but I'm talking about human lives here. So the FDA has a serious decision to make, right? It is a dilemma in a sense because, in a sense, they will, for the first time ever, approve something that's been never done in the past. But again, it is a one-time treatment of a rare disease that has been never explored. No company has ever explored a one-time treatment in the 100 years since this disease was known. I'll show you guys the article from The Atlantic here in just a second. But the point here I'm getting at is that you guys gotta remember, there is an opportunity cost for the FDA. And so again, on one side, there's a potential to eradicate sickle cell disease from severe patients, reduce VOCs, have better, basically communities with happier communities, patients that can live longer, that can be productive in society, and obviously have happier families. And on the other side, they have these risks of CRISPR-Cas9 with the off targets and so on. I mean, at some point you have to juggle it. I mean, everything in life has a risk, right? And nothing innovative, especially not when it's the first time ever that it's brought to the market, is risk-free. Nothing is risk-free. Nothing. You can talk about any technologies in this world, whether that's electrical vehicles, whether that's Bitcoin, whether anything. There's nothing that is risk-free. There is always something that is basically, there are risks tied to it. But then the question becomes, if you don't take that leap of faith, in a sense, what is the opportunity cost? And in this case, we're talking about human lives, and time is ticking, right? So it's not like the FDA has, the green light to just say something like, oh, we'll put this on a hold for another year. They can't do that, right? Because you're basically telling patients with sickle cell disease, you're going to suffer for another year and potentially have your life taken. So in a sense, like, the FDA is now putting themselves in a position to be basically the judge for life or death, right? Which obviously that's not what they're trying to do. That's not their purpose. And but it makes you think, right? Because again, there is no alternative to sickle cell disease when it comes to eradicating it, when it comes to potentially curing a patient, right? So anyways, this article here from The Atlantic here, titled as "The CRISPR Era Is Here, the much hyped technology for editing genes has fulfilled one of its biggest promises." Article by Sarah Zhang. I believe Zhang made an article in the past as well on CRISPR that we covered in this channel. So shout out to Sarah Zhang there for this article. I highly recommend you folks to read it because it's actually pretty good. Talks about the history of CRISPR, talks about obviously Victoria Gray, but more specifically, what I wanted to talk about it talks about like sickle cell disease as it is, right? And it talks about how sickle cell disease was sort of discovered in 1910. Now, obviously, this disease existed well before 1910 because it is genetic. But in the first time ever in the medicine world, 1910, so over 100 years ago, it was discovered, hey, there is a disease called sickle cell disease. It's a blood disorder. It's happening across a specific segment of folks. In this case, at the time, it was in Africa. And there's no cure for it. And over a span of 100 years, we have not had a one-time treatment, a cure. We've not had it, right? We had a couple of things to, VOCs and so on to sort of minimize the impact. And obviously, that's been extremely useful and great. But for the first time ever, we can introduce something in the market that can potentially eradicate this disease, right? And then it makes you think, right? What governments are going to see that around the world, and I'm sure they're already looking at it right now as we speak, especially with the UK approving CRISPR-based therapy there from Hexacell from CRISPR Therapeutics. I mean, governments are like, hey, we have our own rare diseases. We have people with these diseases that no company is working on. There's no way for us to fund anything, any hospital, any, university to work on it because, either it's just way too expensive or two, there's just not enough personnel to work on those, right? But hey, the companies like CRISPR Therapeutics and TLA, Caribou, Beam Therapeutics, Verve, I mean, all these companies, Prime Medicine, Yes, they have all their little technologies, and obviously there's base editing, prime medicine with the prime editors. But the point here is that companies are going to be approached by these governments, say, hey, we have these diseases, can you tackle them? And of course, sickle cell disease is a big one. Beta thalassemia is another one. But there's so many of them. You see NTLA working with HAE, or the ATR. So, I mean, you guys got to think this through, right? And forget about all these rare diseases. Just think about the popular ones that people, I think in Pakistan, like 30% of people have diabetes. Flat out 33%. It's the highest rate in the world. I think the second one is in Qatar, and that's about 23%. So this difference between the first country and the second country in diabetes is so huge. In Pakistan, 1 out of 3 folks has diabetes, and I can speak for my own family. There are a lot of folks in my distant family have diabetes, right? And this is a serious issue, right? Everybody that has diabetes or seen people close to them with diabetes know exactly what I'm saying. It's a serious issue. It's constant monitoring. It's constantly brought up in your life. I mean, it's so many resources put by the healthcare. But what if you had a technology that eradicates it, right? And again, I'm not saying we're there yet. I'm not saying that, with Viaside and CRISPR Therapeutics, with Vertex, what they're working on is going to come out right after this. I'm not saying that. My point here is that governments are going to be looking at that, whether that's Canada, US, UK, Europe, African regions. They're going to be looking at that, right? And they're going to be like, we want this technology to eradicate some of our diseases so that our people can be more productive, live. Why I mentioned that we are entering in this new era, right? So I'm gonna end this video like this, guys, but I really wanted to do this video, and it's a shame that I did this video before doing this video. The only difference is I didn't record it, so I'm literally repeating myself for the past 10-ish minutes, which is weird. But the point here is that the CRISPR era is here, and I think we're not going back. Whether or not the FDA approves it or not in Friday, I don't think we're going back. I think we're moving forward. And I think, this is a new era. I'm seeing more people talk about CRISPR. I'm seeing people that never been involved in the CRISPR landscape talk about CRISPR. Seeing legacy media cover CRISPR in a different light. I remember 2021, 2022, it was more like hey, we have this fancy technology that one day is going to do that. But now it's more like, hey, the UK has allowed it. We have these patients that are potentially cured. The FDA is probably going to give a approval, this week. This is this week, guys. This is big. This is big. I mean, I'm really, really excited. I think I speak for a lot of people in this space. We've been, waiting for this day for a long, long time. So, let's see what happens, guys. Let's see what happens. And I think it's gonna go well. I think it's gonna go well. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about this? Do you think the FDA should approve it, decline it, reject it? Let me know. I'll let you guys with this. Like this video if you found value, subscribe if you're not, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and let's see what happens this week. Thank you.